Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Talking Tradesman. You might see that things are a little bit different today. This is the
I'm back.
she's back, the very first sofa session. So when I very first started the podcast, which was some time ago now, we did a few of these episodes with myself and my good wife. Do you want to introduce yourself actually? Because there'll be a lot of people listening that probably have never actually seen you.
True. Okay. So my name is Angie. I'm the wife. I'm the boss behind the scenes.
The boss behind the scenes.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get on to the true meaning of that.
It was your
Give
boss
me
that's
side
fished
eyeing.
you out of a hook today. Why am I here?
Fished me out of a hook.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are. Anyway, so for those of you old school listeners, you might remember that we did a few debriefs, catching up between me and Ange on life in general, what was going on. A little bit less formal than the other conversations I've been having. And today is the very first debrief, or newly crowned, I prefer the new tag of sofa sessions. Let me
It's
know.
still going to be the debrief.
Oh, it's debrief in the sofa sessions.
In it. I ain't in the sofa. I'm on it.
You're in, well, you sink into it, so
I'm
you're kind
on
of
it.
in
I'm
it.
not in it.
Anyway, back to the old vibe of bickering, but sofa sessions. So a little bit less formal. I'm hoping to bring these in for maybe other guests, friends, things like that have already been on, that we're a bit more catch up.
Oh, people
Chilled
that you
vibe.
don't, that you know that you feel comfortable sitting on a sofa with.
No, it's not that. It's when
Yeah, it is.
when I speak to new guests and they're coming in to talk about their life story, journey through mental health. It is a little bit more, I don't know, there's a little bit more sort of formal about it, I guess. You know, it can be a bit uncomfortable, can't it, sitting on a sofa like this with somebody you don't really know? So I like to give people their own little space and be in the chairs. But welcome to the sofa sessions. So the introduction done. Should we just jump? I reckon probably the best way to explain things is the reason why it's been so long
Mm-hmm.
since you've sat down in any shape or capacity, because we've had collectively, but you generally have had a hell of a 18 months, year.
It's a
How long
year. It's a year,
is it?
literally. Yeah, it's nearly a
It
year.
feels like about 10.
Yeah, I know. 2 salon moves later, eh? It's been wild.
Indeed, yeah. It's probably a good indication, to be fair, though. Obviously, a lot of the conversation and the topic that I have centers around mental health,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that mental health is ongoing, life is ongoing. It continually throws shit at you, as you've experienced over the last year.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you want to tell us a bit about your year, our year?
Yeah, our year, my year. So last March, I upheavaled my salon and moved to a new location. The move was to kind of move more into Birmingham, be a little bit more kind of in an area where there's a lot more happening. And what I thought was going to be a great move wasn't quite like that. I had to endure a lot of endure. Is that even the right word? Yeah,
Yeah,
it is the
it's a
right
word.
word. Endure a lot of crap, a lot of finger pointing, a lot of abuse to a degree with
Well, certainly a lot of
inadverted
psychological
things.
abuse.
Yeah, there was a lot of psychological stuff. So what should have been something that was quite exciting, something quite new, something quite fresh, didn't quite appear to go the way that I would have hoped that it would have gone. And yeah, I've had to kind of deal with a lot of stuff that had gone on in that period of time, which
I think to start it, like to point out really that journey, like that move was meant to be. It was a positive thing. It was a growth thing. It wasn't.
always.
That was a case of the salon was doing what it was doing. You'd kind of outgrown your salon where you were, and it was meant to be the step up, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It was meant to be that kind of like next level, bit more prestigious, kind of in terms of the vibe that I was going for. Just to put context to it, I moved from like a high street shop into kind of like a complex where you kind of had access to like reception. They dealt with greeting your clients. It just was meant to have that kind of nice sort of like plush vibe. But unfortunately, as I quickly learned, things weren't quite going the way that I wanted to. Um, been trying to think about the best way of explaining what happened.
Do you know what? In honesty, I mean, it's a good story just from a business point of view
Mm,
because this is all part of business as well.
mm,
Like if you're a small business owner, you grow, you expand, and then sometimes that expansion don't work out. But I mean, you obviously I was there with you through it, so I'm already aware of everything that
mm,
happened. But you're going to have to explain that to everyone that's listening. But it was you were dealt a really sour hand. Like it wasn't your fault
mm.
what transpired there, but people are gonna be sat there wondering now, like what happened. So
Yeah, of course. So when I originally moved into where I moved to, I'm not going to mention any names, and I'm not going to mention any places,
mm,
but when I moved to obviously the salon that I moved to like nearly 12 months ago, I moved because there was a friend there. She was within the complex, and things turned very, very quickly downhill. I perhaps noticed a difference in how she was towards me. I was very much used to, I suppose, somewhat being love bombed and then being
hmm
unbombed, so to speak. So psychologically, my mind couldn't quite work out, well, why? Why has this happened? I don't understand. I haven't done anything wrong. I've done nothing but elevate this person. I've trained them. I've pushed them in front of scenarios, situations, brands, the whole shebang. And as it then transpired, I then noticed that management within the building were acting differently towards me and my staff. I started to notice that there was more time being spent by these people. And slowly, slowly, I felt like I couldn't quite put my finger on it because I never understood the whys. But ultimately, what happened, just to kind of get to the point, was I, in effect, got accused of poaching clients from said person.
yeah, I mean to point out, so this particular person that asked you not asked you, this particular person that I guess highlighted the opportunity to move to that area
Mm-hmm.
was in the same industry as you.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Albeit, obviously, I did a lot more kind of like hair elements, beauty elements. Um, I did a lot more, and I've been in business far longer, perhaps 2 decades longer.
Mm.
Um, and to learn that that's what the narrative was being spun in the building was actually soul destroying because ultimately I stand by the fact that I've never ever moved in that manner with anyone. My kind of aim or vibe is to elevate with people, and the point is that we're stronger together, so we move in numbers because bigger things happen. And all of a sudden I'm dealt with this situation, and when it then becomes a realization that that is what I'm being accused of, just to add context to that a little further, um, I had a social media manager um, who managed my account. There was like a team of 3 people. And when we moved into the area, it was very much about, look, you need to target this particular area for me now. Um, what they would do is they would do an outreach, which is like inbox random people, like offers, or we've just moved in, introductions, that sort of thing. And there is no physical way of being able to determine which client belongs to whom. Ultimately, a client will go wherever the hell they want to go, but there is no way of me knowing or them knowing who belongs to who. It's virtually impossible, and anyone in business would understand that. But I did have some referrals from this person where I did hair, which is fine. Obviously, very, very grateful for that. But obviously, when you become part of the booking system that I use, there's a whole marketing suite on there where when you do your promotional emails, regardless of whether, you're interested. You get it yourself. Like, you're in the system, you're going to get
Mm.
the advertisements for filler, for this, for this, for that. You might not necessarily be interested, but because you're part of the database, you're still going to get those emails from the booking systems. So yeah, ultimately got accused of poaching on the basis of, I tried to explain, this person knew that I
Mm.
had, shall we say, a social media manager team in place. I said, I literally can back this up. I can literally pull it back down to the IP address and where they're based. But by that point, the story had been spun that much. And from
Yeah.
that point on, I was being pushed.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I saw it firsthand, so
Mm,
I know kind of what went down. But I
mm.
think the worst part about it really was the fact that the management were involved to an extent that was extremely biased, and some of the stuff that went on towards the end was just bang out of order.
Yeah, it's
To be honest.
disgusting. I think when you're in a building like that, things should be impartial, and sides should never ever be taken. And you should understand, if you are
Mm.
going to get involved in a scenario, you need to understand the full picture. But there was judgment there from day one. There was literally nothing that I could change, nothing at all. And as a result of that situation, it absolutely destroyed.
Mm. That's right.
Best don't touch anyone else.
Nobody else on
No,
the.
I
This is
didn't.
why we can't sit on sofas, eh?
I, perhaps time for that prosecco.
I can get you a prosecco. We now have alcohol in the studio.
Breathe it out.
Yeah, take your time. It's cool.
Yeah, I know. I guess from that point, it altered how I then became, because once I'd realized the magnitude of the situation, then, I'm not stupid. I know how these things go, and I know how they roll.
Mm.
And I ultimately knew that there will be another move on the horizon, and that, as much as I wanted to dig my heels in and prove a point, I couldn't. Long term, it wasn't sustainable, because as the months passed, it was getting ridiculous. There was fake appointments being put in diaries.
Well, the management were turning away your customers over stupidness as well, because they were turning up and slightly misannouncing your business name and then
Mm,
sending people away because they hadn't got it perfectly right. No
mm.
business of that name resides
No,
here,
that was to
kind of
do with the
stuff.
parcels.
Even so, though,
Yeah,
it's parcels to
it's
do
to
with
do with
orders, isn't it?
parcels, to do with bells. But yeah, it was just getting ridiculous. I had free inspectors come from environmental health to inspect my business based on a service that I offered, and the only time I ever did that service
Mm.
for free, to help a mate out. So I had to contend with, a week before my event, the Female Boss
Mm.
Awards were due to happen. I've had 3 people literally interrogating my business whilst my staff is there and my stepdaughter's there.
The irony, though, is that you passed the inspection, so it
Yeah,
actually gave you more credentials than you had before.
absolutely. Because, ultimately, I know well enough that you need a warrant to
Mm.
be able to inspect someone. So I knew also that had I'd rejected it and said, no, you go and get your warrant, come back, it'll look like I've got something to hide. But I literally had nothing to hide. There was nothing
Mm.
to hide. There was nothing to
No,
find.
it was malicious. It was what do they call it? It's sabotage, isn't it?
Yeah,
There's a name for
absolutely.
there's like corporate sabotage, corporate espionage. I don't know what it is,
Mm,
but something like that. But I think the key thing though is to sort of me knowing you the way that I know you. You tie your values so deeply and closely to your business,
mm.
so you always take everything so personally when it's anything to do with your business. So for that whole time period that you were in that premises, which was only what,
10
6 months,
months.
10 months,
10
where do I get
months.
six from?
10 months. I had
10 months,
no idea. 10
10
months.
months. I mean, that for anyone that runs a business, right? Anyone listening to this now, you imagine going 10 months where you're constantly being undermined, your profits are being hit. So the financial side of it was drastically affected. You've
Mm.
gone from a period of business growth that you've built up for
6 years.
6 years to the point where you're ready to expand, and then essentially to have all of that progress pulled out from under your feet.
Yeah, in effect, that's exactly how it went. But at which point, like, I took my hands off. I wasn't interested in
Mm,
growing that business. I wasn't interested in pushing that business because I wasn't happy. I like turned into, I suppose, a bit of a shell of myself. I wasn't like normal me, which is usually hyperactive, um, eccentric, like wild. That all those characteristics had gone. And it's funny now because I can look at it now slightly differently when I'm since I've not been there, and then going back to the gym, which we'll come on to that in a bit. But I clocked myself a couple of weeks ago driving back from the gym singing and theatrically singing like it was a performance in my car and a party for one.
mm.
And I don't remember the last time that I did that. Don't remember it at all. And it was just like, whoa, wow, this is, yeah, I lost myself. And unfortunately, every week there was something that was an issue. I wasn't allowed to do this, can't do that. And it was just relentless. Every single week there was something new. And I'm trying to kind of like balance myself, balance my business, balance my staff, balance my home life, balance everything. And shit got real. Really, it got real. I just felt like I was existing. I was just getting up, waiting for a point that this was going to be over. I'll knock them out before you do.
It won't pick up anyway, so
Yeah, good.
people will have it. So there's people talking very loudly outside the shop front, but this will
Yeah,
be
it'll be all
edited
cut
out
out.
anyway.
Um, so my mental well-being dipped drastically. It was just like I was in survival mode, I think, just trying to get through it, trying to get this over the line, trying to get that over the line, and not knowing what the best thing was to do. I'm dealing with my own, I wouldn't say, maybe it is a little bit ego not being pushed out. And
I think between us, there was definitely a part of that. I don't think what had helped is to be open. Like when you suggested the move, I said I thought it was a bad idea.
mm,
So you'd got me who have told you that I didn't particularly. Well, I think what my words were was, "So I'll support you in anything you do, but I don't agree with it. I
mm,
didn't think it was a good move for my own
mm,
reasons."
mm,
So you'd got that. So there was probably a part of you thinking that you don't want to prove me right or admit that.
mm,
You know what I mean?
mm,
So there was that because from my perspective, like I knew that you were struggling in some ways, but I certainly didn't know the whole magnitude of it.
mm. Well, yeah, exactly that. And it kind of like, I mean, now I have no shame in it. Like, because I think the thing about being so emotionally exposed, you become to the point where like no fucks are left to give anymore. I'm too tired to even give a shit anymore about having to hide the front of something.
Mm.
It just gone. But back then, I just remember just coming in, I'd sleep, eat, sleep, feeling exhausted all the time, even though I wasn't like doing anything that was really exhausting me out too much. I had the pressure of everything, the pressure of keeping staff at work, the pressure of the house side of it, like literally everything from every angle. And then just one day I just had enough. I don't even really recall what led up to that particular day that I'm going to talk about, which I know you're not too comfortable with talking about.
Well, it's difficult. It's difficult for me, but be hypocritical of me not to talk about it.
Mm,
Ironically, one of the things I sit here and tell everybody is not to bottle things up, not to,
mm,
to advocate talking about things. But sometimes it's a bit do as I say, not do as I do with me. You know how I deal
mm,
with things. If things are painful, I lock them away
mm.
until I'm ready to process it. But, here we are. So,
Well, yeah, it's taking him some time to get there. I actually did suggest this. I can't remember how long ago it was. I
um,
was ready. He wasn't.
yeah,
Mm,
no, I don't know. Whether I got this place or not, I don't remember.
nah. Oh, I don't know. No, you didn't.
No.
No,
So it
no.
was some time ago then.
Yeah, it was some time ago. It was definitely last year. So I think it was just before.
Mm.
Just before. And like even now, it was a blur. I'd obviously, when it all had kicked off, like just to go back to that, that was the pinnacle moment when I realized the way that this was going to go with the situation that I was in. I was hysterical for days. I was so upset. I'm kind of mourning a friendship that I thought was there. And I felt like I was gaslit the hell out of. I felt used, sad. There was just so many emotions. And I just wanted to shut myself away from the world. I took myself off social media for a little bit. Obviously, work wise, I had to obviously keep up appearances, evidently. But leading up to that day, I just I just remember coming home and I don't know what or what it was just one of those I just had enough. And I just walked out, walked out of the house without my phones, without my keys. Normally the things that are usually strapped to me day and night, I just didn't care. I didn't care anymore. And I took myself off. Didn't really know where I was going or what I was doing, but I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to process my feelings on the situation because I knew I didn't do anything wrong and it's out of my control. I can't control the situation. So, like, I must be just a shit person. I must just throw out a vibe. Where's the pause button? So, I have no idea how long I was gone for or whether I wanted to come back. I just went down towards the river by us and just sat there mindlessly staring into like water. And just for the first time, I feel like I just didn't know how to work my way out of a situation. Typically, I'm very solution led. Something happens, I'm very much like, watch this, watch what I do now. I'll find a way. I'm relentless usually, but I was that beaten down, like emotionally and mentally, that I didn't know which way to go or which way to turn, what to say, what not to say, because everything I said, everything I did was wrong. And then I guess that's when, obviously, Russ, I put him through that worry of where the fuck how am I gone? It's out of character for me to leave like that. No communication. Am I surprised he's not wanted to talk about it? Because how do you even talk about that? How do you get over that? And evidently he found me, he and the dog, your Holly dog, bless her. Found me by the little wooden, what even would you call that? Strip, just sat there.
It's a fishing pier jetty thing.
Oh,
I
is
don't
that
know what
what it
they're
was?
called.
I was sat on a fishing pier, fishing for life's answers. And quite rightly, he was worried and upset. I guess he would have, well, I know because he said he felt like a fraud. That, and it's not on him. That's all on me because I'm just very good at hiding things.
It's not on you, but
It
to
is.
explain that, when I've gone through this whole journey of talking to people about mental health and educating myself around mental health and all the rest of it for the past year, I've spent, talking to people who have become friends but were strangers about all that stuff. And yet, to me, it was right under my nose. So yeah, I felt like I'd failed you
You didn't
in that.
fail me. I'm just like, I've always, and you know this, I'm always very good at masking things.
Mm. See, it's one of those things, isn't it? Sometimes you can raise awareness within yourself or learn about something, but what's happening right in front of you, you can't see. It's like it's too close. So it's when an object is too close to you, you can't actually see it. And I don't know. I guess there was just an assumption, and that it highlights just how easy it is. Like there was just an assumption that you were okay because it's that whole like, well, it'll never happen to me. It'll never happen to us. But I
But
didn't like I said, I knew you were struggling, but I didn't know how far it had gone. And also, like, with the best will in the world, you're not the easiest person because you're very independent. You're very averse to asking for help or leaning on anyone or saying that you won't say that you're struggling. It manifests itself in your behaviour more than anything. But like you say, you cover it up very well until the very end.
yeah, that's exactly it. I get to a point because I think I don't want to burden people with my thoughts and feelings. I don't want to put that on someone else, whether it's you, whether it's someone immediately close to me. I didn't want to do that. And I think particularly with how well everything was going for you, I didn't want to be that negative because I was negative. Everything, it's like the roles had switched between us, like you from way back.
Mm,
Like everything was just like doom and gloom and negative, and it was all about just surviving that period of time. And it was just, it was hard. It was hard. And then for me to then get to that point, it's always the way though, I'm all or nothing, in or out.
mm,
So it's always the extremes. I am an extreme person in terms of the way I yo-yo. And it's been a learning curve. And I've certainly in the last 10 months, 6 months, learned a hella lot of stuff about myself, about you. We've learned about each other. And I've tried my best to adapt and to be different in the way that I approach things. So yeah, that period of time was a lot, and I put you under a lot of pressure, and I'm always consciously aware of that. But then equally, I've never had anyone take the reins. It's always fucking hell. What is wrong with me?
It was your idea to do this.
I was not. You struck me today because you got let down by
I know,
people.
but you wanted to do it.
Yeah, but
You wanted to have this conversation.
sometimes I can mentally prepare myself and have my
It's because
days
I've
to
made it all
prepare.
moody and light and, emotional lighting.
I wouldn't mind. It's not like I'm on my period now. Like I'd understand if I was.
Well, it's been bottled up for a long time, hasn't it, really?
Yeah, it has been bottled.
In fairness, I mean, we haven't really spoken about this much,
No.
to be honest. So,
So our own little therapy session.
potentially.
But yeah, I've just never been used to anyone taking the reins, because I've always, ever since I was little, have had to fend for myself. I've had to provide for myself. I've had to do things for myself. So it was very, very difficult when you're as independent as I am to accept help. Very hard, because I'm dealing with myself, my own pride, knowing exactly what the situation is and was. It yeah, it was a lot.
It was. Yeah, it was. The irony is, I remember, because the pinch point, as it were, because I was due to do, of all things, I mean, this is how I felt about it. I was due to do some talks around mental health at a trade show, which I actually pulled out of. And I don't pull out of things. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. But with everything that went on, I think it was like 5 days before I was due to go and talk about mental health. And I just felt that there was no way I could do that. There was no way, because I felt that I'd missed everything that had been going on with you, that it would have just been fraudulent for me to do that.
Yeah, you felt that for some time, didn't you?
I still do, to an extent. There's still a guilt that I carry for it.
The thing is, as we both know, we're all accountable for ourselves, and if I'm not saying, how are you supposed to know?
There is that. I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? I had this sort of epiphany actually the other day, because I finally have now done public speaking, like 6 months later. But when I was on my way back from London on my own, I was thinking it's a funny thing, mental health, because a lot of us, when we talk about advice and we give people advice, it's very much centered around the person. So it's like you try and tell people, if you're struggling, reach out. If you're struggling, talk, let people know. And generally what we're doing, we're putting all that emphasis on the person that's struggling. So it's like, if you're struggling, do this. But there's not as much emphasis on what we can do, like the person around the person that's struggling. That's why I've been pushing that message of like, let's listen, because it's equally as important as talking, because if there's nobody listening, nobody will talk. And there's that thing, isn't there? It's like, well, actually, it's not always easy for the person that's, when you're in that dark place, you can't see your way out. You can't see the options in front of you. It seems straightforward to everyone that's not in it. But when you're outside of it, or sorry, when you're in it, it's not always that simple.
It's difficult, because especially when you're someone like me who is like a pressure cooker. I let it build, 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 and then boom. I mean, it got to the point where Russ he didn't know what to do. He did not know what to do with me. He didn't know how to handle the situation. He didn't know what to do to make it better. He didn't know how to fix me. It was like past it was past his depth. And I think that's, I mean, at the time I was so angry with him, and I'll explain in a second why. But sometimes you have to bring in other people when it's out of your remit and out of your depth. It's okay for other people in the situation to ask for help. And that's in a sense what Russ did. He called my sister. And just to put context to it, my sister is not only my sister, but she's a therapist, a
CBT.
therapist. So she deals with people like me all of the time. And I never forget, I think I was just sat on the sofa mindlessly just crying and staring into space as I would normally do. I'd go into I don't even know what that mode is. It's like I'm numb. I get myself to an emotional state where I've beat myself down so much emotionally. I'm exhausted. I'm tired, but then I can't feel anything. So I'm just mindlessly numb and mindlessly just sat there staring into space.
Essentially, I think realistically, it's a breakdown, isn't it?
Mm.
Let's be honest. Like,
Mm.
call it what it is. It's a point of break, point of whether that's a breakdown or just a point of breaking. But that was from my side, and there's probably people that will listen to this that have been in this position where they've been around people that have been struggling at times. But I felt there was just this enormous. I felt a huge pressure because I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Mm.
I don't know whether to speak to somebody. I don't know whether not to speak to somebody. I know you didn't want me to speak to anyone because you wanted to keep it between us.
Mm.
But then at the same time, I'm thinking, but if I don't and I make the wrong move and you do anything, and that was where my head was. I was
Mm.
thinking to the extremes that well, maybe that's selfish, but I didn't want that pressure to be on me, not
Mm.
really knowing what to do. And it's like when the stakes are so high and you don't know what to do,
Mm.
it's yeah, it's a horrible position to be in. I can really sympathise with people now that might find themselves in that position too. Because and most of this revolves around the fact that there's still such a fucking big stigma around mental health
Mm.
and people not wanting to talk about it and not wanting to admit they're struggling for fear of judgment, which
Mm.
is what it is.
And I guess when you look at the industry that I'm in,
Yeah.
it's very
I
superficial.
mean, maybe that's a relevant question to ask you, actually.
Mm.
Sticking my host shoes back on. But, like, why did you not want anyone to know?
Because I suppose ultimately I am quite private, really, guarded. I've been very stung by people leading up to this point.
Mm.
And I don't think I was scared of being judged because I've got to the point in life where I just don't give a shit about what anyone thinks about me or what opinion they have. I think it comes down to admitting defeat to myself. And actually, you made what I thought was going to be a good decision. I made a bad decision, but it's the fight between could I have predicted it? Yes, no. And then in terms of bottling it up, I don't, maybe it was just my pride to myself. I don't know because I don't really know. I don't know if I can answer that. Why don't, I didn't feel like I could, I just didn't want to be a burden on anyone else.
There were so many angles to it, though, weren't there? That's the thing. This is
Every
why I say that
direction.
you're like so tied into your business because there was the obvious financial pressures that come along with a business that's not doing well. But then there was the whole rejection of a
Yeah.
friendship
Yeah.
situation,
Yeah. That's
the
massive.
pride. There's so many.
There were so many angles, and I
Mm,
was being like attacked from every single possible scenario. And it just, when everything, normally when things happen, it's one or two or three. But this was just every single angle. I was in a circle with no like doors. There was no square or corner I could sneak out of. It was just a full circle that I just kept living and going round. And obviously, then having my sister turn up on my doorstep, and I see her when Russ lets her in, and I'm angry that he's told her to come. But then I think that just comes from the burden thing. I don't want to worry her. She's a mum of 3. She's doing all the different things that she's doing. She's working full time. She's training for Ironman. I didn't want her to worry about me when she's got other things to be dealing with. So maybe it's because I just didn't want to worry anyone. But equally, I guess in most senses in my whole life, it's really just been mainly me. So it's been hard for me to adapt to your version of us. It's us. So when it comes to sharing a problem, because it's mainly always been just me, it's hard to change that habit because it's a habit where everything's internalized. I mean, yes, of course, there's issues from childhood and what have you, but this situation that I had to face was a triggered situation. I've said this to you before. Normally, if I'm left the fuck alone, I just disappear into my own little world where everything's like fine and dandy. But it's outside circumstances that will trigger me off, just like childhood. Outside circumstances. It's always outside. Generally speaking, like, I'm generally all right. But in that situation and in that moment, I wasn't all right. And I had to ask for help. And I guess my sister knew what needed to be done. Trying so hard not to smudge my makeup and keep this fucking waterworks internal. I suppose it's like most people would go to their mum. But when that's not there, and then you get your sister, your younger sister.
Me to get you tissues.
No, I'm not letting them out. I'm pushing them back in. When you've got your sister who's, I suppose, playing both roles. She's playing therapist and somewhat a motherly role, maybe. So I suppose she just helped to straighten my ducks. Is probably the answer. Straighten the ducks, put them a little bit into row so I could like spread my wings and fluff my ass. But yeah, so that took over a lot. And I don't really know I don't think there was a pinnacle moment. It's, you get used to the situation, and I think that's what happened was I got used to this new version of the way that I am right now. I got used to the cards that I got dealt in that place. I got dealt things where I have no choice but to just carry on existing until such a point come that we I could do something about it. And then obviously I think close to that we were there, then had our holiday. I didn't want to go on holiday.
Well, yeah, I mean that's how bad things were. It was up until 2 weeks before we went on holiday, a holiday that had been booked for a long time.
Mm,
You were telling me that you weren't going,
mm,
so I was trying to weigh up, you know, telling the kids, not telling the kids. I can't cancel the holiday because I couldn't have got the money back.
mm,
Then I'd let the kids down. So it was like I knew I had to take them either way, but I didn't know until 2 weeks before we left that you were coming.
mm,
Um, it was last year. It's a weird one, man, because it was like in some ways it was really good, and I
mm,
kind of because one of the things like like on my side being with you through that, something clicked in my head where I knew that I'd got to pick up the slack and sort of provide for both of us for a period of time. And I feel like my brain has got stuck in that. Like I've got this constant like go, 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 go thing going on at the minute.
mm,
And I haven't managed to relax back out of it yet. So
mm.
does that I don't even know why I brought that up. To be fair, I was thinking about this earlier because
You've taken my role. I mean, a role of art before, if you look at the 12 months prior to that, with
maybe
me, everything was like I was go, 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 go.
I know what I was getting at now. So I always try to, since studying the Stoics, I always try to find the value in any given situation in
Mm,
life, and this was one of them where I
mm,
was kind of like, weirdly, your situation, you being under that pressure, which then diverted onto me, made me push harder for certain things like this potentially
mm,
that maybe I wouldn't have pushed so hard on if I wasn't under the pressure to make sure there were various avenues of financial support coming in. But I then look back at it and I think maybe the amount of focus I had on that side of things was partly to blame for the fact that I didn't see where you were at.
mm. I don't necessarily like the way that you are, like the way that you are now, as much as you're probably doing way too much and you're burning yourself out. It's actually quite nice to see you so hungry. Like, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. Like that drive. So hunger.
Mm,
When I say hunger, I mean that the drive. I think had all of what not had happened last year, you wouldn't have that drive. This place wouldn't have happened. So many things, as bad and as negative and as shit as 2024 was, there are some good that have come. It was a hell of a fucking year. We there was a lot, we went away. I came away last minute because I didn't want to come away because I felt guilty. I didn't feel like I deserved a holiday. I didn't deserve the niceties of that. I guess with you taking the reins, I felt guilty somewhat. But at the same time, that holiday was the worst and the best. It was the worst and the best.
mm.
Mm. So I guess we just ultimately went away and then got struck with more shit news,
Yep.
which I'm probably going to have to explain this one a bit more than you because I can talk about it a little more than you. But before we went away,
I think I've spoken about it before. To be fair, I'm just at a heightened emotional state. I'm not like it's like Jesus Christ, man, give a man a break. I'm on the ropes.
you're the one that fucking dragged me here.
I don't know about that.
You did. I didn't drag you here. You're the one that wanted this today, not me.
I just said a gap has come up.
Yeah.
You wanted to speak, and now here we are.
Mm. I guess like as much as some people will not be able to relate, a lot of people will be able to relate. When you have an animal, they become part of your life, part of what you're providing for, your mate, your little quirks, your little this, your little that. And before we went away, maybe a year prior, was it a year or two, Holes had the operation?
Yeah, it was about a year, I think.
Yeah, so a year before, Russ took our dog out for a walk. What we thought was a tick turns out to be a tumour in her foot. We then had that removed. That was successful. Everything was fine. We had the option to have a $3,000 scan, but the vet was very much like, look, after doing this initial scan, there isn't anything that I can particularly see that's of concern. It, if it was me, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. I mean, what they actually said as well was that if they found anything, there wasn't anything they could do anyway. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot about that
the whole
bit.
thing would have been pretty pointless.
Yeah. So about 3 weeks before we went away, in the mix of everything that was going on, the dog started to swell from the head, and we thought, because it was summer, that she'd eaten a wasp.
Well, the vet told us that she had eaten a
A
wasp
wasp,
first time
yeah.
round.
So she was given steroids for that, and then it went down, and then it came back a day before we were due to fly. So it was like everything in the world was trying to stop us from going away. And our animal sitter had to take our dog to the vet the following day because we were due to fly, and Russ didn't want to go. And then it was at that point where Russ didn't want to go. He didn't feel right. He felt guilty. But obviously at this point, we don't really know what's going on. We can just assume it's more of the same. And when we're away, Holly was taken to the vets, and then Russ had to take a call whilst we were away, and we had to find out some not very good news whilst we were away with the children, which was very hard for Russ to take. Holly was ultimately his dog, but also our dog as a family collectively for, a long, long time. And obviously at that point, it put kind of somewhat of a downer on what's supposed to be this lovely holiday, the get away from the reality to more shit, and having to deal with that and trying to conceal that from the children. But then at the same time, recognizing the children actually know more than you think. As much as you wanted them to be protective, they were actually protecting you, because I spoke with them about it. Because sometimes Russ has a habit of trying to protect children too much, and sometimes they just need to know what's going on, and that's just life skills at whatever age. It's about learning within the family to have each other's backs regardless of age. Like, my sister's younger than me, she's having my back in that moment. It's the same for kids. It's swings and roundabouts. But ultimately, we then are counting down our days, knowing we had to come back, and we had to face the music. We had to face the situation. And I don't know how much you want me to talk on this, because I know you're quite closed on it.
Well, I don't think we need to go into too much detail. It's pretty obvious where it went.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, give me a break, man. Yeah.
So I guess just maybe coming away from the doom and gloom a little bit. I know we're going to jump back and forth in timelines on this, but like, we come back, we dealt with what we've had to deal with, survived it. I then do what I do, which is I find my version of distraction, which was tickety tock. one of which that Russ completely and utterly disagreed with. He saw me as exposing myself to a bunch of nutters.
Let me just explain though, from my side, that the issue I have with that particular platform is that it's prone to, like, the trolling. And I know, like, you've built yourself to an area where you don't get bothered by the personal attacks, but as your husband, I can't turn that off. You know, I've spoken about this before. I believe, like, one of the most important things that people have that keeps them on track is purpose. And, like, I'm very aware that my purpose revolves around, like, my wife and kids. Essentially, it's protect and provide. Might seem a bit old fashioned, but that that's me. Like, that's what keeps me on track, is to have a purpose. So part of that purpose being to protect. Obviously, it's really unnatural for me to see the abuse that you can get on that platform. And I know you're in a different mindset, but I'm never going to feel the same way as you about it.
Let me explain it. It's like the pattern of what I've had to deal with in 2024 or throughout my life, whatever. The more that you're rejected, the more that you're pushed, the more that you are destroyed. At the end, what's left? Nothing at all. So although you saw it as me self hurting myself, I'm using that word correctly because I know platforms will pick up on it if I
Not these
directly talk.
platforms.
Huh?
Not these. We talk about all sorts.
Yeah, I
That's not.
know.
We're not on TikTok now. You can say it's fine.
I know. So to you, you see it as me self-harming myself. But for me, what it was is growing my resilience.
I don't see it as self harm.
You did. You said that to me.
I don't think I do.
You did say
I
it.
see it as, I know why you're doing it. I just don't. I don't like you being exposed to that
No,
level of negativity.
as my husband, yes, correct. But I suppose in a way, what I was doing is I was distracting myself where I had to obviously deal with the female boss. We'll come to that. I had to deal with what I dealt with within my salon. I needed the distraction. And for whatever crazy way, the way that my brain works, the way it's wired, that happened to be my distraction. And I think it stemmed from the dog situation. It's where it developed because I started to speak on it, and it's just the way that I was dealing with it. Russ's version is internalizing it, but when I'm ready to speak, it all comes out. It just all comes out. It doesn't stop. So I felt I had majority of a little bit of comfort from TikTok. As much as I got all the trolling for different things and still do now, there was people who I was speaking to was like, oh my God, thank you so much for doing this video. I'm going through the same thing. Or people that I was speaking to in the comments who have been through the same thing that would say certain things. We were all dealing with it in our own ways. And TikTok for me was me growing my resilience, me growing my backbone, me proving that no matter what anybody can say to me, I'm not affected. And that's what that platform has done to me. It's grown the biggest fucking backbone I've ever had in my entire life because I have been absolutely ridiculously ridiculed for my appearance in every single possible way. I mean, for fuck's sake, someone went on about my fucking forehead, and the way I respond with that is I get a tape measurer out and I do a video response and I measure my fucking forehead with a tape measurer. And then I Google and do a green screen of the national average of a female's forehead in the UK. And I was below the average. I was below 4 centimeters. Fuck you, motherfucker.
Is that what it is? Four
Yeah,
centimeters.
yeah. I was 2.5.
Babe, your forehead's not 2.5
Well, it depends
centimeters. Two and a
when
half
my
centimeters is about that
yeah,
big.
no, but
You'd
if
look
we're
really
talking,
strange if your
well, maybe it
forehead
was
was
three
that
and a
big.
half then.
You meant inches or
Oh,
centimeters?
no, sorry, inches. Sorry, yes,
Right.
sorry,
Okay.
inches. Yes, yes, inches. So I
We talk
made
about centimeters when we're talking about other things.
huh? Willies.
No, but people get it. It's a
Why would they
bigger
get?
measurement in it.
Oh, inches is a bigger measurement.
No, inches is smaller. There's
Uh,
less inches to more
I don't know what
centimeters.
any
You've
bloke
just
would come
ruined the
along and
joke
say.
now.
My dick is 29 centimeters long.
It sounds bigger than inches, doesn't it? That's what I'm saying.
Most people know an inch
How
over a
have we managed
centimeter.
to go from such a deep conversation to dick measurement in 0.2 seconds?
It's just the way that my brain works. Many directions.
Okay, so you
Um,
have a less than the national average sized forehead.
yes. So that's how I respond with things. That's how I deal with it. I do it with humor. And and I'm just like, well, what do you want me to do? Fuck it. There's no fucking procedure to change my forehead, for fuck's sake. Um,
Don't
so
that have to be like in proportion to the size of the head though? Because you've got quite a small head. Like if you had a bigger head,
mm,
then it would be different, no?
maybe, I don't know.
Because I would imagine like my forehead's bigger than yours, but my
Oh,
head's bigger
we'll
than
measure
yours.
it later and we'll
So the
see.
proportion, really, just putting it out there, I think it should be like in equation to the size. It should be a percentage. So it's like your forehead should take up no more than
20% of your whole.
30% of your face. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that. Um, so TikTok was my distraction. But then I started to get a little bit like, oh, you can earn money on TikTok? How can you earn money on TikTok? So what I did, whereas I would normally, and previous years would have shown this, I would have all these like goals. I'm going to do this. This is going to happen. I'm going to achieve this. I'm going to do that. I did it with TikTok because that was my scapegoat. So I knew I had to get to 10,000 followers to get on the creator reward program. Every minute of the day that I was sat still, whether I was on the toilet, whatever, I was button bashing and following people like it had gone out of fashion. And I got there and I'd got to the 10,000K mark and I then entered or applied for, because you don't get it, not everybody gets it. I applied for the creator reward program and got accepted as a creator on TikTok. So that has played a very big part in my life since then, since June last year. So I'm nearly coming up to a year of being on that platform. And I guess had all of those things that had not happened to me, I wouldn't be sat on TikTok making money for chatting shit on a video. It sounds ridiculous when I hear it come out of my mouth, but TikTok was a savior in a way, in a lot of ways.
Not really. Like,
How was it
well, I
not?
mean, no. I mean, like, it don't sound ridiculous.
Oh,
It's that value and trauma thing again, isn't it? It's that weird, like, but you've got to. That's a mindset shift.
mm,
You know, the two. You can sit and wallow in the victim side of things,
mm,
the victim to the circumstances and how shit things were and all the things that you lost and all the rest of it. But at the same time, then it depends. Like, it's not going to do you any favors, is it? The only person getting hurt by that is you. So when you flip that round and you're like, okay, well, that was shit, but out of that, I got this.
mm,
And now you've got something that you didn't have previously.
mm.
Then you see the reward in the situation, even when it was crap.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying is had all of that not happened, that wouldn't have happened. This wouldn't have happened, maybe. There's a lot of things that may have not have happened. We certainly wouldn't be sat here talking about our feelings so openly. You wouldn't be sat here being more open than you've ever been.
Well, I'm trying. It's a journey for me. Like I'm trying. I've got so much work to do. Like honestly, I've said to a couple of people now. I'd actively want to do therapy. It's just finding the finding the
Do
time.
therapy as in have therapy
Have
yourself.
like proper therapy because I think it would just be interesting, even to examine the process. But yeah, there's a lot behind my thought processes.
Yeah, but also because you're an overthinker, you with me and you is I can feel things in the moment whilst they're
Mm.
happening, and then once they're fixed, I'm like, right, boom, done, fuck off.
It's fascinating. Like, I mean, I've got a fascination around psychology anyway. It
Mm,
fascinates me. It was like the other week when I sat down with Lee Anderson and I came home and I said to you, I
mm,
was like, the irony is like me and Lee are obviously very different,
mm,
but because of our inputs are like childhood abandonment issues, essentially, we act in very similar ways in certain like triggered situations. And that's what I find fascinating. So it's like, if I'm still in that process, then maybe therapy can actually improve my quality of life. Who knows?
Possibly. I
But I
mean,
think,
it's
Christ, with all these conversations I'm having, I probably need to have therapy anyway, to be honest with you. Like, this is therapy to an extent,
yeah.
but it's this is it. It's the whole part of the journey, isn't it? Maybe this wouldn't be. I mean, to be honest with you, this whole studio move nearly didn't happen because of your situation.
It's very
I
true.
teetered on that knife edge for a long time because I thought, I don't know if this is going to work out. Thankfully, it has. There's more news coming on that soon. Trying to think when this will be out. Anyway, there's some sponsorship deals that have been sorted, so it's going okay now. But I didn't know whether it was going to work out, whether this was just going to be a big financial commitment for me, which was scary. I've never had any kind of commercial premises in my name, and whether that was going to add to the pile for me financially. I think. Obviously, your situation's different now as well, so we'll get onto that. But yeah, it was when it come to taking this place on or not. It was a yeah. Well, I teetered on the edge of it for a long time, whether I was going to
I think
take
it
it
was
on or
quite
not.
a big deal for you to take that risk because you never normally take the risks. It's normally me that jumps in blind.
Yeah. Well, yeah. In credit to you again, I'd never have made the phone call on this place.
No, I did that. I kept
Yes, you
bombarding
did.
her with emails until she.
So again, this would not. The podcast would never have happened if it wasn't for this lady sat here. I
You're
mean, I don't
welcome.
think I'd be anywhere near as grey as I am now if it wasn't for you, but
You've always been grey. It's not
I'd be less
changed.
grey.
You're not. You're still grey. You've not changed level of greyness. It's still the same
You
as it
don't
was.
know that. I think
I'm your
without
hairdresser. I colour
exactly,
your hair.
but without it being coloured,
Do you not know?
I'm
Don't
probably
know.
as grey as his sofa now,
No, you're
all
not.
over.
No, you're not.
I was going to
I'm
say
more
I'd be
grey
like
than you.
Schofield, but he's out of favour these days, and you can't say that
Wow.
word.
Well, we got Gino
In
De
hair
Campo
colour
now.
only.
We won't talk about that. Ross is very defensive of Gino.
Gino, I like Gino.
Anyways, so obviously the studio happened, and then in November. So just as Russ starts to finish decorating the studio, I then throw another bomb in the
1
works.
week. 1 week I had. 1 week I finished the studio. That was it. I had 1 week of downtime where I thought, right, that's it. I can chill.
And then I'm just kind of like, right. I think I just decided at that point, Russ had mentioned it to me before. I was still stuck in my pride mode then. He said, maybe you need to think about moving because long term, this is not sustainable. And then I was like digging my heels in. No, I'm not being pushed out. And then it was like a switch had flipped and I'd finished caring anymore as to what people might think or say, even though I know I said earlier that I don't care what people think, but do you know what I mean? I was more concerned about clients than anything. That was my concern. The disruption of for clients was more than anything. And I'd hit fuck it. I need to get out of here. I need out of this place immediately. And I need out of here before the end of the year. I didn't want to come into 2025 still feeling that the misery that I felt in that place. And as life happens and how it has happened, there's no dressing it up. If it wasn't for us, it wouldn't have happened. Wouldn't have happened. He helped make that happen. He supported the decision yet again of what it was that I was wanting to do. I've been very strong on the fact that the entire 10 months, maybe not the entire 9 months, a whole pregnancy, my mindset was off. And I think I kept saying that to you, didn't I? I was like, I'm off. My mindset isn't right. It isn't where it needs to be. It's not where it was. I just don't have that fire anymore in my belly for that. I can't do it in here. So with just a week's notice, I'd gone ran like I just kept viewing like a lunatic, didn't I? I was
Hmm.
viewing property after property, and then narrowed it down to two, two in very two different locations. One was ready to move in, one needed work. Um,
Can guess which one she picked, can't you?
the one that needed the work. I think for me, I was second guessing everything because I'd got the last move so wrong. I was second guessing everything. I don't know whether it was the right decision, the wrong decision. Is my Am my feet? So I needed to tune everybody out, and I needed just to be on my own and think and feel what felt right. And then I went around all the two different areas. I spoke to the neighbors of like the fellow businesses and stuff like that, and just something about the area felt like it was the right move. And I do believe to this day, right now, that it was the right move, as much as there was a shitstorm leading into it. And like, I felt like everything was trying to go against me when all I want to do is just fucking live my life, run my business, and be left the fuck alone. So that being said, um, I moved again, and moved to a better area, back on the high street, back to basics, um, and put Russ through the hell of move and I suppose the refurb to a degree, and a floor that he will never want to live again to see in his rest of his life.
Nope.
He hated fitting that floor. It looked nice. I thought it'd be easier. It's bigger, less planks to lay. The reason I had to get a new floor and I bought a new floor was because the fucking flooring that I wanted, that I ripped up from the old place, plus the old studio, which was the same color, they didn't have the fucking floor in that color. So at this point, there wasn't enough floor to go round. So I had to make that decision and got a new floor. And Russ cursed that. I've never seen him that angry in a long time. He picked up a hammer and threw it halfway across the room. Because he was tired, he was exhausted. Obviously, he'd just done his own place out. Now he's here having to do this place or help to do this place. And then I then steal his apprentice, AP apprentice, um, to work for me.
I'll be honest. I think in the run up to Christmas, that was probably as close to burnt out as I've been.
Mm,
I was on my limit. I think there,
mm,
like this place has been a passion project again, getting it done, and I'm really happy with how it's turned out. But the whole like work and then finishing work and then working again to try and get it done. And I was still recording podcasts as well. So I was
mm,
still recording in the other place. So
mm.
trying to stay on top of episodes, renovate a new studio, keep my business going,
Move into here.
all the stuff going with you, then the move into here. And then I literally thought, right, okay, that's it. I can relax. And a week later, I get, yeah, by the way, I'm moving again. We've got 2 weeks to do it or whatever it
It
was.
was 2 weeks. Then
Um,
had the
so
delays.
yeah, like in Christmas, I was struggling by Christmas. I was very, very burnt out.
He
I was
was.
just exhausted physically, mentally, emotionally, everything. I feel so much better now.
Yeah, I think
Like,
we were both just glad. I mean, in my head, I needed out of that place before the year was out.
you're
There
not
was
going to
no
tell the
way.
story of the new place, like how much of that you're going to talk about. The issues. Is that like cap that?
Somewhat. Because I don't want it to be a negative on something that I'm trying to create. But there was a lot
Oh, I
of
thought it was
shit.
kind of funny.
What bit?
Well, it's funny looking back
Oh,
now.
are we talking about the shit story?
No, we're definitely not talking about that,
Oh.
Ange. If even, and I know what you're like. Now I've said no, you want to do it, but I'm telling you now, I'll edit it out. I'm not. That's not going out there.
I'll just put it on my stories.
No,
I'll just say, and I'll tag everyone.
no, we weren't talking about that. We were talking about all the other issues.
Electrics, plumbing, to do with the shit story.
Pets.
Oh, friendly pets. Yes. Friendly pets.
Are you going to go into detail
No,
about any of this?
no,
No,
it's not
no.
something I've talked about.
Oh, okay, that's on lockdown. So yeah, it was all smooth. It was lovely. There were issues
Yeah, we
with
had
moving in,
issues. Yeah,
several issues. Yeah,
very stressful issues. It was kind of like throw the towel in, keep the towel, throw the towel, keep the towel. Russ was like, fuck this shit, throw the towel in. Me being me, relentless.
I instantly said I think it was as soon as you got the keys, I was like, give them back. So
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't straightforward. It wasn't a
No,
straightforward refurb.
no, it wasn't. But from where it was to what it is now, massive difference.
Yeah.
Massive. And I got I'd gone along so much listening. I suppose I felt like I was listening to everybody. Everybody's giving me different opinions, and I needed to stop listening to everyone. I needed to quiet my mind and what's going to be right for me. And that's when I went, before I even said yes, I just sat for about an hour, people watching, watching the area, what was happening, what if it was, an area that was going to be good for my business. And I stand by it.
Mm.
I absolutely love the area. I've got some wicked, awesome neighbours, like tattooist next door, laundrette. I feel like I'm in EastEnders, mate. I really do.
You
Got a
just need
calf up the
somebody
road.
out the front going, Ricky.
I've heard all of that, trust me.
Mm.
Um, so, that aside, it is. It wasn't until I moved in there, and then we had a slight plot twist. Data protection tried to do me, but that's another story. Couldn't do me because I had the video proof of proving consent, but that's again another story. Um, and it wasn't until I was in the new place, once the dust had settled, how I realized how miserable I must have been, or I was, for 10 months. It's almost like I retuned a piano. I
Mm.
retuned myself, and I started to capture glimpse of my old self, clients catching glimpses of me who was before there. And on the 2nd of January, because I moved in officially on the 5th of December, only I could move in December and get that shit done by the 5th of December. And then kind of run with it, and then got to the 2nd of January, and I kind of, because the gym thing has been lingering for a long time. I've been a member of my gym for 5 years. I kind of periodically go in and out of training. But on the 2nd of January, I woke up and I thought, nah, time to fix me. I've spent so much time like investing it into other people's bullshit. It's time to invest into making me better. And the gym has played a lot in that. When I said, obviously, driving home, singing along and performing in my car, it's because all of a sudden I'm making, by making my body stronger, I'm equally making my mind stronger. And I realized that's why you see me going now 4 or 5 times a week, because I've realized that if I physically feel strong, my mind is strong. And that's where I needed to repair. So it's given me focus again, TikTok, focus, gym, focus. So having these like few avenues that are giving me focus that's separate to what it is that everything else that I do, which is not as you see it, as me throwing myself fully into my business and it being personal. I have come away from that, because I've just like other things are starting to become a bit more important, and I'm not throwing it all into the one thing. So yeah, that's pretty much my year wrapped up, apart from the Female Boss Awards. That was obviously another focus.
Kind of a big thing that you admitted there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was a big thing. I had a lot of pressure on, a lot of pressure to get things done, get things over the line, make it happen. Scary as fuck. Never ever have I ever run an event of my own apart from planning weddings.
So this, just for context, this is like in amongst the salon. So this is Angie all over. It's not just one thing at a time. But decides to move salon and create an awards company, and create an awards company with a different, stay anonymous, have a different venue to anybody else, a different format to anyone else, do all of this all consecutively at the same time as everything that's going on.
But I was balls deep at this point, so I had no choice but to carry on pushing. Obviously, it's scary because I don't know how this is going to go down. I'm doing something different. I'm trying to bring these people together in a different way, these women together in a different way, lose a little bit of the egotistic vibe that you get in our
Again, for context
industry.
for people that are listening, this is explain what the awards are.
So the awards are the Female Boss Awards. So it's all about empowering women to unite together opposed to individually working against each other. So it's recognizing women within the industry. Staying anonymous allowed me to do things and move in certain ways that allowed me not to be biased because I might know someone or feel the pressure of someone who knows me that is going to get a green card
Within your awards,
within my
not
awards
awards, within your
industry.
industry, so hair, beauty, aesthetics.
Yeah, hair, beauty, aesthetics. Um, and it also allowed me to put judges in place of women who aren't in the circle,
Mm.
who aren't getting these opportunities, the underdogs. So give opportunities for underdogs to shine. Give up unbiased judging by taking away the names of the people who have entered, really keeping it factual, getting people to sending their insurance certificates, sending their qualifications in, vetting them basically, not just handing out awards just because you've written on paper that you're good at X, Y, and Z. No, like proper process. So that whole process had to be learnt from scratch. I had to learn everything whilst doing the job and implementing things as I go along. And then obviously I had all the concerns and the worries of leading into the awards because of the previous situation and the previous person who knew it was me behind it. And obviously getting to the day of the awards, the stress of that, the wrong cables, the this, the that, all the things that anyone that has run an event before will understand. All of the things that like you're worried about, things going wrong. I'm very methodical, so I'm a planner. When someone fucks with my structure, like the venue did, and moved all of my awards after I singly filed them into each category and scenario and situation of how my presentation went, it was like that fucked with my OCD big time. Um, so yeah, getting the awards done was a massive thing, a big deal, but also a relief that it's been done. It's been done. Um, and that I like to think that I made an impact to women, feeling more confident about entering an awards, not feeling overshadowed, underpowered.
I think, I mean, to give you some credit, to be honest, like we focus on again, last year was a terrible year, but you started an award company from scratch that didn't follow the pattern that anybody else has followed, and it was a massive success. I
Mm,
was there on the evening, like you held your first event, which is something that you've never done before. You booked out a high street, not only a high street, but a city high street club to host it in. Um, and the whole thing was a resounding success. Everyone
mm,
had a great night. It went really well. So you deserve a lot of credit, a big pat on the back for that, really.
mm,
You know.
mm.
So again, huge moment of growth, really.
Yeah, definitely. It was a lot. And when I do look back and think, fuck yeah, that happened, as well as there's been so many things that
Isn't it
have
funny,
happened.
like how we just incentively seem to override the positives? There,
Mm, yeah, very much so. Very much so. It was 2024, I guess when you want to sum it up, was literally like a fucking spaghetti roller coaster.
hmm.
Not even just a roller coaster, it was spaghetti.
It was like 5 years worth of events in one.
in 1 year. Yeah, exactly. And that was wild. So I was definitely really pleased with myself after. It's going to suit some people, it wouldn't have suited others. I know that. But that was the whole concept of trying something new, something different, something where people can have fun and enjoy
Mm.
themselves ultimately. Well, we had some awards nicked as well. Not to forget that, but whatevs. It's all been done and dusted and sorted with. But yeah, it's been a crazy 10 months to say the least. Am I missing anything?
I don't think so. But in fairness, I have had certain, of the old guard of the podcast have asked. They've been like, when are you going to get Ange on again? You should get Ange on, blah, blah, blah. Well, here's the reason why she hasn't been on.
Mm.
It's, she's had a lot of some highs and some really low lows as well. And
Mm.
it's that thing, isn't it, as well? When things ain't going your own way, you don't really want to get in front of a camera and talk.
I wasn't ready. I was still trying to deal with myself. Not even just that. I didn't have the time. I got to the point that I wasn't giving my time to anything that wasn't gonna financially reward.
Mm.
I mean that in a non like what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know, but when you're under pressure financially, then you
Yeah.
end up, you do that, don't you?
Yeah. I was very, very lucky to have the Female Boss Awards.
Hmm.
That was a massive support. And TikTok. TikTok bought my fucking shop sign. I won't shut up about TikTok. I'll always go on about TikTok because as much of all the shit that I get, it's supported.
Yeah, I'm never going to change how I feel
I'm not
about it.
asking you to change, but it was
It's,
remember that time you turned around and said to me, what did you say?
I don't know.
You said to me, I'm going to hate myself for saying this, but I think when you realized that I was earning money off TikTok and it weren't just a couple of pence,
Hmm.
you said to me, look, I'm going to hate myself for saying it, but you should really you should really keep doing these TikTok videos.
Everything's consistency in it. So,
And I
like,
showed
if you're
up every
gonna,
day,
yeah, no,
every day.
if you're gonna do something, but that I've always been that way. Like, if you're gonna do something, you do it. You give it everything because then you can never doubt that you could have done better.
Mm,
Which is the way that I've handled all of this. Which is the way that I'm still churning out episodes every week. Because if you're going to do something, you have to be consistent. You have to
mm.
give it everything that you've got. And
Oh,
then,
absolutely.
if you're rewarded for it, then brilliant. If it doesn't work, then, that's life. That happens
But
too.
that's the biggest, I think, the learning curve from it. And then obviously back then I wasn't ready to come back on because it just wasn't my priority. I felt like I guess I had to be the clown that I
Mm.
am usually when we have these like debriefs, it's me clowning around, ripping it out of you just for comedy entertainment. It's just the way that sometimes our banter can be. Um,
Well, check you out. You've come and done a proper mental health episode.
I know. How about that? How about that?
Mm.
But there was always going to be the right time. I mean, who knows? Was this the right time? I don't know. Was it the wrong time? I don't know.
I don't think
No,
you never know when it's the right or wrong time, do
no,
you?
that's
But
it.
I think it provides value to those that do know you and those that have been listening. Anyway, just because it, I guess people maybe do wonder, like, why haven't
Why?
they seen you,
Mm.
and what's been going on? Well, there you go. There's what's been going on. Life,
Life
life ain't
takes.
easy, man. That's
Mm.
the thing. It throws shots at you when you're not looking, and some of them can knock you onto your knees.
Yeah, sounds like
It does a bit,
the
yeah. But
Rocky
it's
quote.
true, and
Mm.
the reverse of that is also true, which
Yeah.
is it's how you deal with that. That
Well, yeah, it's
you,
how hard you can get hit. What was it? I can't even
yeah, it's
we
not how hard you can hit; it's how hard you can get hit and keep
keep
moving
moving
forwards.
forwards,
Essentially.
and that's how winning is done.
Hmm.
Which is kind of how it's gone, isn't it? Just keep
Yeah.
getting hit
It's
after
tough
hit.
because there
Mm.
is, it does get to a point where you do just start feeling like, Christ, man, why me? Like, just give me
Mm.
a break. I've had this to deal with, and now there's something else, and something
Mm.
else, and something else.
And I guess that's the thing that I would probably want to say is that if anyone else is going through a period that has been similar to what I or we have experienced, or you've experienced as a couple. You just have to keep pushing forwards. Find whatever distraction. I've always been a big believer in distraction is key. And I've said this about things, and I know you've learnt that with Pringle lately, with, you know, the scenario that we had a couple of weeks ago, Pringle being Freya, his daughter. I was going to call her your stepdaughter.
No,
I
she's
see
not
her
my
as my daughter
stepdaughter.
more than yours. No jokes. But it's, I think about just taking a moment, breathe, accept what is going on, and find your distractions, whatever that might be.
Just move,
Just move,
basically
yeah,
move
just
for whether
move,
that's whether
whatever.
it's going for a walk, whether it's joining a gym, whether that's taking up a new hobby. Just occupy yourself.
Yeah, occupying yourself is the biggest thing. I've always been a massive, that's one thing that's stayed consistent with me throughout my whole life is distraction. Some would say, oh, if you're distracting too much, you're not dealing with it. How people like me that have gone through what I've gone through, what he's gone through, we're dealing with it daily. It ain't about not dealing with it. You're dealing with it daily, but
It's a lifetime
distract.
of it.
Yeah, you
It is a
distract.
lifetime of it.
Distraction is key. Find other things that you can focus on. Find things that's just going to spark your little light again.
And also, I think I suppose from my point of view, it's worth adding as well. You just truly never know what somebody's going through. Like, I mean, I've sat here, I've done pretty much the whole year of the podcast with having my own private life for you at home and everything that you've been going through and I've been going through with you, and then still coming and doing this. And at times feeling like a complete imposter for doing so, feeling like I'd let you down, that I'd failed you, and then sat here having these mental health conversations all the time. But it's just worth pointing out that, you know, it's that thing, isn't it? Give people a little bit of rope, be kind, because you never know what people are going through. And I've not suffered anything, you know, I haven't had anybody giving me any grief that I've had to deal with other than what I've been dealing with at home. But I don't think outwardly people wouldn't have known that there was anything. There were a few,
Yeah.
obviously, when I pulled out of the talk, I had to let some people know broadly what was going on. I was dealing with some stuff at home. But yeah, I think this is obviously the first time it's been fully put out there. So,
Fully disclosed, fully aired.
but it doesn't matter. I guess what I'm trying to say is it doesn't matter how put together somebody looks or somebody's life looks or how together you might think. Like, you might have thought that I'm sat here, I'm fully secure in and around mental health because I talk about it all the time. But in reality, nobody knows what's going on at home. Nobody really knows where my head's at any given point in time.
We all put the showman on. The showman, what you see when you might just spend a night with someone, you might just have a conversation with, you might just see on social media. It's the showman that you're seeing. It isn't what's behind that. And sometimes we live in such a superficial world, we don't see the layers and the depth behind the picture, the conversation,
This
the
is true.
video.
Just be kind to each other, people.
Definitely.
We caught up. I feel like I need a drink now.
Should we
Honestly,
open a
I
bottle?
feel like emotionally drained after that.
Yeah,
Just
well,
sat here.
he asked for it.
Mm-hmm.
You asked for this.
Well, I guess another question. So, are the good listeners of the Talking Tradesman podcast going to be seeing more of you from now on? If I can fit you in.
If you can fit me in, bitch, it's whether I can come to you. You're gonna have to pay me a fee.
Do you know what? Actually, if you're still listening and you got to this stage now, let me know. Do you want to see more sofa sessions in general or not?
Sofa sessions.
Sofa sessions.
Why would
What this
anyone
is?
give a shit whether it's a sofa or a chair?
It looks different, so it's going to present different. This whole thing, it's different. It's a different vibe, isn't it? It's not my normal vibe. It's different. It is a sofa.
I guess I will be back just to keep taking the piss out of you, because I think that's what they like. This is probably going to be a bit heavy for them.
Potentially, yeah.
With both of us sat here nearly fucking
This is a bit more
traumatized.
normal. Actually, this is kind of like a normal episode.
It is like a normal episode, but not normal for our type of episode, which is obviously how it is now. It's the naughty chair.
Let's get back onto a topic actually to finish things off, because I do want to raise awareness around this. But get back onto a topic that people are probably a little bit more familiar with you around. How do you feel about me climbing a mountain in the
Oh,
dark,
for
Ange?
fuck's sake. You and this fucking mountain. He don't want me to go. Piss me right off.
You, what, come on. It's not that I didn't want
It
you to
did
go. You were
eventually.
never invited.
No, he didn't want me to go because he thinks I would be a liability and slow him down. This is what really is behind this. And furthermore,
No,
why did I want to,
no.
why did I say I wanted to go?
Listen, your words to me regarding that particular mountain were, I will never do
Because I
this
have
again.
PTSD over that fucking mountain of yours.
There you go. So you don't want to go. That was not the question. The question was, how do you feel about me doing it? Not how do you feel about you not doing it?
How I feel is that you went on a fucking mountain walk with your daughter last week and fell over a dozen times. She told me.
Twice, not a dozen.
No, she told me it was more than twice.
No, it was twice.
No, liar.
She exaggerated.
No, she did not.
It was twice.
You're calling her a liar?
It was snow and ice anyway. I did it to save her.
This guy, no, you didn't. She walks far more in a
There
straight
will be
line
no
than you.
snow. There will be no ice on Snowdon in May.
I think for me, and I've said this to you before, it's the control. You went to that fucking big snowy mountain. I didn't want to talk to you or even acknowledge you or what you were doing because you didn't take the battery packs.
I did not talk to. I just didn't
You
take
didn't
3.
take. No, I gave you 4.
You'd have
gave
put
you
that many
4.
battery packs on me. It would have weighed me down. I'd have fell off the mountain.
We've just discovered that I probably won't want an electric car because I'll need several fucking chargers for it. OCD. I'm like that person that leaves it running on empty.
Fortunately, with this one, you'll probably be asleep anyway, so I won't have to know the fact that you're ignoring me.
I'll be asleep.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, well, I'm not going to stay awake, am I?
Exactly. So you'll be asleep.
I think the concept and the idea is a great idea, but obviously, given your history on every walk you've ever been, you've fallen over.
So you've
and
just
hurt
added
yourself.
danger. So because it's going to be so dangerous for me, The Climb from Darkness, go check it out. It's on all the social channels. On the 10th of May, leading into the morning of the 11th, myself and 20 people associated to the podcast, whether that's former guests or people that are connected to the podcast, are going to be climbing Snowdon overnight. So we're going to climb it at night to represent the battle or the climb from mental health darkness. What the intention is that we're going to summit Snowdon at sunrise. So the climb into the light, hence the climb from darkness. We're doing that to raise awareness around mental health. Just in the build-up, just talking about it, we'll be raising mental health awareness. And we're also going to be raising money for Project 7000, which is the On the Tools charity. Project 7000, the Lost City, representing the 7,000 lives in construction that have been lost to suicide in the last decade. So, very worthy cause.
It so is.
And Ange will be giving her full support, although she hasn't donated yet.
No comment.
On that note, I mean, I'm hesitant to do it, but I always say to guests, let people know where they can find you, and I know what's coming, so knock yourself out.
Hey? What's coming from where?
Where can people find you, Ange?
At home, where I normally am.
Where can the listeners find you?
Female Boss Slayer. TikTok.
Is that it? You're not going to...
That's it. Just
that's
TikTok.
it,
Just
as
TikTok.
far as that. Yeah,
So if you want to come and see me play a character, which is a very controversial character,
just don't tell me about it. I don't want to know.
He just doesn't want to know about the trolls. That's all he doesn't want to know. But if you want to you want to laugh, you want some banter, you want to hear me talk about Donald Trump and bringing back plastic straws and how fucking funny I found the fact that he was unconcerned about the sharks and the straws and the plastic because they were too busy doing what, babe?
Munching their way through the ocean.
So it's light-hearted. I mean, there's a lot of stupid people on there. Anyone that knows me knows what I'm doing. So yeah, check me out, Female Boss Slayer. If you're a type of person to get offended by swearing or the most stupidest of stupid things,
if you're
just
easily offended
don't bother
at all in any way, shape, or form,
don't bother.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
On that note, Thank you very much. I would normally at this point also thank my guest merch sponsors, the Funky Peach. I'll thank you anyway. Thanks for sending guest merch. Probably ain't going to want it.
Oh, you haven't
Do you wanna,
offered it, have you?
would you want a hoodie?
I'll have a hat.
There you go. Thank you to the Funky Peach. And also a big thank you to Steve at Uncle Matt's Hats
Hey, big up Uncle Matt.
for providing all of my guests for the next 6 months with an Uncle Matt's hat, of which she's already took a red one.
I've
So
already got my red one
there we go.
secured in the deal, in the bag.
Well, guys, thank you very much for listening. I'll catch you soon on the next one.
Toodaloo, motherfuckers.